Good morning to you and welcome to this pre-market live stream on a day, well, you probably don't want to look at your portfolio right now. And it is because Nvidia and the whole semiconductor tech sector is, well, jumping off a cliff apparently. And what I want to make happen for you here in the next 15 minutes or so is answer the big questions, give you clarity, make you better informed than anybody else out there so you are in a position to make better decisions for yourself and your financial freedom and future and so on. My goal for these is always to run a little bit like a morning meeting would work if you were an investment bank or like a meeting with a brokerage team. So I'm going to run you through here the following. Of course, I'm joined by the brains behind it all, Winston, even over there, who is schloozing quite happily down there. So Winston's going to explain to you what just happened to Nvidia and tech, right? That's number one. Two, will this actually get worse? And three, what about gold? And how is this tied to tech stocks? Most people are not really aware of that connection. That's an important one. And how do we know what stocks we actually want to buy in situations like this? I want to give you that too. And then there must be some good news, right? So Winston's dug pretty deep here and he's found some good news. There is some silver lining at the end of this tunnel. And then the big question, is the US actually in a recession? And where do we take it from there? And then we do a chart review of Nvidia and Tesla and SoFi and Palantir and all the popular stocks out there. And of course, you're super welcome to ask me questions. That's kind of the way we roll. So let's, there we go. There you are. Those are our 7 golds here for today. What just happened to Nvidia? Will it get worse? Why is gold tied to tech? How do we know what to buy? Is there any good news? Hint, there is. Is the recent recession here yet? And then chart review. So if those 7 things would be useful to you, then write 7 in the chat. And that way I know that you're actually alive and well and that sort of thing. So this is what just happened to tech. Nvidia down about 6.5% pre-market. AMD similarly down 6.66%, which must be a Catholic omen for that. So what the heck happened there? Well, the United States has come out and slapped export restrictions on Nvidia as a thank you for moving all the manufacturing to the US and building $500 billion worth of chips in the US allegedly. Thanks for all the sevens there. Sevens heaven. I like that market mark. So what have they done? Well, they've basically banned the export of the chip. I think it's called the is it the H10 or is it the H20? I can never remember. I thought it was the H20. Which is a chip that Nvidia made specifically to sell to China. And it was something that was compliant with Biden's chip restrictions, export restrictions. Trump has just said, no, sorry, not happening. So is that bad news? Well, Stock Savvy Shay here puts it quite nicely. It is the H20. And he says, Nvidia is taking a 5.5 billion hit this quarter. That's quite a bit of money, isn't it? 5.5 billion. Like, think about this. Like, your portfolio's down, a few 10,000s, hundreds of thousands. These guys are taking up 5.5 billion hit. And this is where it gets worse, a 15% blow to gross margins. That really matters. And I like the way he's phrasing this. He's saying, like, this is not because of demand or pricing pressure. It's just politics. It's like a rule that the US has put in place. And what it kind of means is that chips are sort of I'm going to use a blue pen, a bit less menacing. Chips are basically the new like oil, the new energy. And the US is basically putting an embargo on countries it doesn't like, and it's deciding who's going to get those chips. Now, in reality, it's going to be somewhat hard to police that, but it does take direct orders off the agenda. Jose thinks it's childish. Look, the way I look at politics doesn't have to make sense. Don't have to like it. I just take it for what it is. It's the facts of the day. That's all that matters. So people get very irate in my comments the last few days about Trump mostly. And if you're getting very irate, you're probably not in a position to make great financial decisions in that moment. So you want to step back and just go, I don't really care what they do. I only care about the financial well-being of my family. Right? I think if you make that the number one, stop looking outside and just look at what are the facts? What am I dealing with here? How do I make better decisions? That's how you become a much, much better investor. You no longer think, oh, this is unfair or this is going to get changed or repealed or whatever. It doesn't matter. We just deal with the facts as we know them. Is it going to get worse? Well, ASML, who are sort of the mother bee of all the chip manufacturers, they had a slight revenue miss. And the guidance that they gave is also lower than expected. So that's another. So not brilliant, right? Not brilliant earnings there. And we're kind of expecting all these AI earnings, these chip earnings to come out swinging. They didn't. Politics and wealth don't mix. Yeah, I think that's true. I used to be quite political. I gave it up. That's when I got a lot more wealthy. I think there literally is a rule to it. So when people get very irate about stuff, I just think like, just if you can rise above it, like you feel better, you sleep better. None of that stuff really matters that much. It just really doesn't. I know people get really excited by it. I always think that politics and the media, they want you to get wound up and excited because that way you're kind of like stuck in their little world and you're going to go out and you're going to buy a Starbucks or whatever to make yourself feel a little bit better. And I think that's kind of how that whole economy works. So you want to step out of that. You want to just like live in your own economy and nothing else really matters. And once you realize you can actually take control of your money and your financial goals, right, then you feel much better. Who here feels like they have control? You feel like you have control of your portfolio, put a 1 in there. If you feel like you have not great control, put a 2 in there. And try to be honest about that, because I think it'd be good for everybody to see. So gold here is absolutely flying, and not just because we have a golden retriever here. What has he done? That's a great angle, isn't it, Winston? That's a great angle. Thank you very much. He knows where the camera is now as he tries to face the other direction. Sneaky. But, okay, some 1s there, but also some 2s, 1.8s, 1.5s. Okay, those are honest. I like that, guys. And look, there is no shame. I like the 3 there as well. That's really, really honest. And, okay, I'm getting a lot more 2s here now. Brilliant. And look, that's the first realization. It's like, do I really feel in control? Or I just think it's the whims of the market that I'm dealing with, right? And once you realize that, you can then go, okay, well, maybe I'm here and I want to be up there, right? That's the goal. Now you have a goal. What's the gap? What's in between? Skills, right? Skills, maybe a little bit of experience thrown in, but that's what bridges the gap between where you are right now, whether that's a 1.5, 1.8, whatever, and the goal up there, which is the goal is to have control. But getting back to tech, and we'll get back to that in a moment. And gold. Gold has gone absolutely bananas, and I wrote to you guys about that in the community on Monday as well. Gapping up once again here this morning. And what does that mean? Well, gold is another sort of fear indicator. When people expect maybe higher inflation, and people expect dodgy times, a lot of gold buying happens. I think we're also seeing China buying a lot of gold, which is another way of like, well, they don't want to buy US treasuries, which is understandable. So the higher gold goes, the more challenging it actually is for the stock market. So it's nice if you have gold, but not so nice if you don't. And that's why we have, got into some gold stocks earlier in the week. Now, how do you know what stocks to buy? So I'm going to run for you on Saturday a 90-minute training session. And what I'm going to teach you, I'm going to teach you how we pick great long-term stocks. I'm going to teach you a little bit of how we time it, definitely where we sell it. And I'll run you through what I'm buying this week and what I'm planning to buy next week and the whys. So I want to make this not just theory, I want to make this a little bit more interactive and a little bit more like now and real. So you walk away with like a heck of a lot of information, but mostly skills, because that's always the most important thing. I'm a huge believer in teach a man to fish rather than, giving you the charity fish. And if you want to join me for that on Saturday, 11 a.m. New York time, there's 1,000 spots available at felixprehn.org/webinar. It's completely free. And we'll do a Q&A as well, so you can ask me a ton of questions on that. And it'll be fun. It'll be really good fun. And I love doing these because we help people. I'll realize, the more often I run these and the more I've taught, 15, 16,000 people now. So I sort of realize what are the easy things we can really, really get to? What's the major shifts, the major impact we can have in just like an hour and a bit of teaching and help you walk away with those things. So that's the goal here. That's the mission here. If you want to join us for that, please do. There is a link down below, but also in the chat. I'll just pop it in there, so you're super welcome to join me for that. And Winston will teach you all the good stuff, because this is a huge opportunity. And I'm going to show you some good news now. Right? Money is made in bad times. Money is not made at the top of the market. So the fact that the market's down 20% and a lot of the stocks are down 30, 40% is a wonderful, wonderful opportunity to build wealth. but only if you know how, only if you know what to look for, only if you know what's coming next. And how do you know what's coming next? It's a pattern that repeats. It's a pattern that's repeated for at least 50 years. And that's where I learned it, from guys who've done this for 20, 30, 40 years longer than me. So Donald, El Presidente, is saying, Japan is coming today to negotiate tariffs, military support, trade fairness, and he's going to meet with them and something can be worked out, which is good, great for Japan and the US. So there might be deals coming. If we get a big deal with Japan is a very large economy, that would be very good for the stock market, because everyone's going, oh, well, if there's one deal, we're going to get more than one deal, right? Dave, you're going to see that? Brilliant. Okay. Look forward to you. Here's another one. Vietnam, who got hit with very, very hefty tariffs. They are apparently boosting their defense budget by 30%, which could mean buying US F-16s to narrow the trade deficit. So where are we putting our money? Defense. When did we start buying defense stocks? Last Monday, right? So predictable. We had no idea this was coming, but it's somewhat predictable. Argentina agrees to sign a trade deal with the US. Deals are being made. That's another one. And Japan, it's a Bloomberg screenshot, says China open to talks if Trump shows respect, names a point person, which is a step in the right direction, because before there were no talks whatsoever. So this is a little bit silver lining, maybe a little early, but it gives us some path to, there might be an end to this somewhere, right? Pelican wants us to do a London show. You mean like a live one in person? Always a pain to organize. In-person events, I don't know. I like the digital thing because we can have like 3,000-4,000 people in a room. And like right now, we've got 3,000 people in here, and it's easy. Everyone's in at home. Everyone's like got their hot of cocoa or whatever. Everyone's got their hound next to them, and it's a beautiful world, and it's easy and it's accessible. Otherwise, you got to get on trains and get somewhere, and it's going to rain. It's London, and so I like digital. I like digital a lot. Maybe we'll do some live events one day, but for the moment, I'm really enjoying the digital side of life here. So, what about the U.S. recession that mainstream media keeps telling you about? Well, guess what? Do you know where you get your data from? If you go into Trade Vision, click on our little brand new kind of bright greenish icon there in the top, and there is an events thing in there, right? So you can click on that, all events, and then you see all the economic data for the whole freaking world, not just the US, actually. You can literally look at Timbuktu's data if you want, and then you see the actual data as it comes in and the estimate here, right? So the actual data that just came in for retail sales month on month is 1.4% growth. We're expecting 1.1%. Excluding autos, excluding cars, it's 0.5% compared to 0.1% expected. So these are huge beats, huge beats. The most beautiful retail sales data the world has ever seen, I think Trump will probably say. But in all seriousness, it's good. It means the economy and the consumer is pretty strong, which is exactly kind of what we want to hear here. So this is the best retail sales data that we've seen since the beginning of time. No, not quite. Since last, what was that? January 2023. So pretty good, pretty major beat. What was the main thing? Motor vehicles. Motor vehicles. You think people are buying cars pre-tariffs? Might that have something to do with it? Probably, right? Michael, you love the app. It's still a secret. I was sworn to secrecy by my partner for Trade Vision, Jeff, who's an amazing guy, who is, I have to say that because he's probably watching. No, he's genuinely a great guy. He said, don't tell people. So I haven't told people, but you're sort of giving it away there, really, aren't you? You're going to get me into trouble, Michael. He's going to get me. He just read, yes, the app is out. He's going to get me into trouble. I didn't say it. I just read it out. It wasn't me. So, that's my mea culpa there. Now, do you think Nvidia and AMD are crashing today? Yes. Yes, I think they're getting hit pretty hard. And I think if you think that through, what that means, you'll going to want to buy something else other than chips. Now, what did I say about 2 weeks ago? don't buy tech. What did I say last Monday as a morning as I put up my note to you guys in the mentoring community? I said, don't buy tech stocks and definitely not chip stocks. And that still stands. Even though they're now 6 or 7% cheaper than they were yesterday, still wouldn't buy them. There are some great things to buy, by the way. But yeah, I could give you the list and you think that'd be great. But if something unexpected happens, you wouldn't know what to do with it. And you'd come back and you'd shout at me, which would be reasonable. So what I want to do instead is give you the tools so you can come up with your own list. That's really the goal for Saturday. So we're gonna dig a little deeper on Saturday to make sure you are the best educated investors out there. Because that way you are happy about the crash. That way you bounce back from it. That way you retire better and sooner, which is really the goal here. So come and join me on Saturday. felixprehn.org/webinar. Link is down below in the chat. I'll put it in the chatty majig here as well, if I'm allowed. There it is. And you can grab yourself a ticket for that. That's completely free of charge. Now, I think I said we're going to look at some of the big tech stocks out there. We should probably start with Nvidia because it can only get better from there. And where is Nvidia trading right now? There it is. Okay. So we put in a bunch of lines here yesterday. There's a lot of lines, right? But that blue dotted line is where we are right now, which means what? It means that we are gapping down here pre-market. Gaps down are ugly, really, really, really ugly. And what we were doing yesterday, I think, we're connecting here the recent highs. And we're just saying, look, we're getting lower and lower highs. This looks like, well, again, we got a slightly lower high. So that's pretty bad news. On top of that, the recent rally had falling volume, which again says to you, please, please, please don't buy this stock, but go and buy anything else except for this stock. And it doesn't seem obvious. Like I used to look at these charts and go, it's just a bunch of pretty lines. And surely this is meaningless dross because surely the market can't be driven by these little lines that you're just drawing there randomly. That's what I used to think. I used to like literally watch people on TV do this chart analysis and I'd laugh at them. I thought, they don't know what the fuck they're doing. How could they possibly? And then I was very lucky. I got taught how this actually works because I got a job in banking for a little while. And I've then since then spent the last 13 years or so studying this and learning from my glorious mentors who'd been doing this for 30, 40, 50 years longer than me in Chicago and in New York. And I realized that actually all you need to know is basically on this chart, pretty much. And it tells you when you should buy, it tells you when you should sell, and it tells you when you should definitely not buy. And this is one of those definitely don't buy this one here. So my humble opinion, of course, I must say that, otherwise it could be construed as financial advice. So yeah, Nvidia looking terrible there. AMD, people are always saying, oh, it's great, AMD is getting cheap here. Well, you know that people said that at like $166 and at $140 and at $121, and now we're trading at $88, which is a massive drop again here pre-market. So just do yourself a favor, learn how to not buy these falling knives, right? I'll teach you on Saturday. We'll cover all that good stuff. Mr. Moose, Trade Vision app downloaded, looks really nice. I'd say the cat's out of the bag, isn't it? Appreciate that. And let us know, of course, if you have any feedback on that. That's what we're doing, a little bit of a soft launch. That's really the goal here. Once it's properly tested by more than, just a dozen of us, we'll roll it out to everybody as well. What if you already own it? Okay, you can't go back in time. There was a rule to sell, right? There was an exit rule for it. You got to then ask yourself, like, what's your horizon? Why do I own it? Like that's the first question. It's like, well, why do you own it? And people go, oh, it's an amazing business. Like, well, what makes it amazing? They go, oh, I don't know. I read about it. Like, well, what did you read? Like, what was it? What was it? Was it the free cash flow? Was it the return on investment? What was it? What was it about? Was it the revenue growth? What specific thing is it? And once you know that, and I'm not trying to have a go at you, by the way. I'm just wanting to push you a little bit here, because unless you have that, and unless you write that in a little clever notebook, I bought AMD stock because of this number or because of this fact, then when the stock drops 20%, you can look up, is that fact still true? If it is, okay, fine. You got the time horizon, you could wait it out. But how do you know the fact isn't true if you don't have a fact? Right? So you can't really come to any reasonable conclusion unless you know those things. Now, the way I deal with it is I set up an exit rule the moment I buy a stock. Just do it at the same time. And that way I never have to have that conversation with myself because it's frustrating, right? It's annoying even. So I'll just let my rules do the thinking, and I don't have to. It means life's much, much easier, and I'm about as relaxed as this guy here, you see, who's not wanting to be on camera, apparently. So can I be one of the dozen? I do think it is available to all you guys who are already users. It's just we haven't like pushed it out because of that. Speaking of cats, Mark in Spain, no kittens yet, but the pregnant cat is getting sort of dangerously large. She's getting really, really, really large, struggling to jump and that sort of thing. So it must be. I always think it's the next day, but it certainly hasn't been. Up looks fantastic, brilliant, guys. Very happy to hear that. Didn't miss much. I hope it didn't miss much, but you missed everything. We mostly talked about you. Okay, so that's AMD. Let's look at a few others here. Tesla is down 2%. I mean, Tesla shareholders are like saying, well, that's basically like it going up, isn't it? Sort of the same thing. So it's just going sideways. Not really much movement there. What else have we got? Palantir. You're just collecting contracts right, left, and center. Like a stamp collector, really, just picking them up. Okay, here's Palantir. Palantir apparently has, there we go, there are my notes. So I said a couple of days ago that I want to see this close above the recent high here, which is it's actually a little higher than that, isn't it? Where is that exactly? 98.22, so probably a little higher, actually. I'd say 98 closing price is bullish. Okay. Some people are saying to me, well, why wouldn't you want to buy it cheaper? Because it's not about cheaper. It's about, is it likely to go up? And when you are below a resistance level like that, which is now a double resistance level like that, then it's very unlikely that you're going to break through it. Much more likely that you bounce off and you sort of, do one of these sort of jobs, that sort of thing. And we don't want to buy that. We want to buy it when it breaks through the line and gives us some real momentum. So that's what we look for, because it makes it much more likely that we actually make money. Dr. Nies, do you set a stop limit or stop when you set up your protection after you buy? That's a whole philosophical conversation, really. Generally speaking, I'm in pretty liquid stocks, so the stop will be fine. The market stop. If you're in very illiquid things, you have to ask yourself, do I want to sell this only up till here and then I want to hold it if it goes much lower? Does that make a lot of sense? So when I buy, I use limit orders for sure. But when the stop kicks in, it matters a little bit less with stocks. Options, definitely you want a limit order. But yeah, I think the lesson is probably just be in liquid things. Be in liquid things, because that way it is less of an issue. SoFi, down just a little, just 1% down. So it's sort of barely worth talking about. It's trading slightly below yesterday's trading range, but not massively so. But generally, Dr. Denisa, generally speaking, limit orders are your friend. It just depends a little bit. Just have a look at like the bid ask, like how crazy does that go apart in the mornings? It can be quite wide, especially at the opening of the morning. It can be pretty wide because, well, the hedge funds, the citadels and so on, they make a lot of money on that. Dr. Hibbigan says, you say to wait for the stock to run up before buying. I assume this is exclusively for short-term trading and not for adding to your long-term portfolio. No, it's exactly the same. It's exactly the same thing. So, I did a video, for example, on Celsius here, right? Which I like as a long-term stock. I think it's a very good business. It's a sort of thing people get addicted to and that kind of thing. Like a Pepsi sort of type thing, but, for young people who think that it's healthy. Easy to mislead people nowadays. And so you could buy it here, yeah, but I won't. I'm not going to buy it until it breaks out above that line there. And I tell you why. Because at the moment, the likelihood that it's simply going to do this for like a year is quite high, or that it's going to go down. The likelihood that it's going to go up is probably less than 30%. So once it breaks through the resistance here and actually goes up, I guess I should use a green pen for that. Once it actually goes up and breaks through it, the likelihood of it going up is much, much higher. So it's about just a little bit of a statistical edge. And why do I not want to be in something that's a good company for a year when it's going sideways? Because I'm using my money for a year and it's doing nothing. What if the year's like last year where the S&P did 25%? So you think, oh, it's okay. I made zero. That's okay. But if the S&P 500 did 25%, really, you didn't do zero. You did minus 25 because you missed out on the 25%. Right? So you got relatively poorer, or your money got relatively worth less than the guy who bought the S&P 500. So my comparison point isn't, is the stock going up or down? My comparison point is, am I significantly beating the index? That's always my goal. And I think everybody should think about, like, how do I make my money work the hardest for me so that I get to my goals faster, right? And so I get to retire and, you know, live happily ever after. So yeah, long-term investing is still the same thing. I don't buy stuff just because it's cheap, because cheap is just relative. It's a terrible thing that we've been led to believe about, that we should buy cheap stocks. Generally speaking, cheap stocks are terrible. And why are they cheap? Because there's something wrong with them, and they tend to fall some more. So I wouldn't fall for the cheap trap that Wall Street sets for you. I think that's somewhat helpful. And I'm not saying you have to buy Celsius, by the way, obviously. I'm not saying that. I don't own any Celsius yet. I don't, because it hasn't gone through the level that I wanted it to go through, right? It just hasn't. So people are having a go at me online saying, apparently, I'm pumping this stock because I own it and stuff. I don't own a single share of Celsius. Never have in my life. I'd like to, if it goes up correctly. But it's not about Celsius. I don't care about the businesses. I don't care about the stockers. I don't fall in love with the stock. I just care, is this an opportunity to make me money? And the setup is very good. It's kind of textbook, but it hasn't delivered on the final, like, nail, so to speak. So therefore it is incomplete, and therefore I do absolutely bugger all with it. Now, any other stocks? Uber. Yeah, that was got mentioned a few times lately. Uber is... So what do you see? What do you see? What do you see? Well, nice sort of bit of consolidation, right? A little bit of that. And then breaking out here on some pretty decent volume. That was pretty good. Ran up quite harsh, quite nicely. And you notice as it runs up, see what happens to volume? Volume goes down pretty harshly. So again, you want to set, when you have, especially when you have big rallies like that, and you really move away from the moving average line here, which is that yellow one there, that 50-day moving average line. When you have those big gaps up, you really want to set some exit rules to make sure you lock in those gains, because that was a beautiful rally up, right? If you'd caught that even a day late, you would still have made, 14% or something in the space of about a week. That was nice, probably more than Uber will make you this year. So since then, well, we collapsed a little, right? 2 days down, a little bit of stagnation, down some more below the 50-day moving average line. That's your warning sign. That's this is going to get worse. Get a bit of a fake out, which doesn't take out the recent highs, right? It bounces off them here. You go down, break down below that 50 again, and again, look what happens. You get a gap down, right? And that's what that warning sign here was telling you about. And then you went much lower, hit the support level down here, where the market maker started buying, and then we're going back up. And at the moment, the concern is that we're going to bounce off this yellow 50-day moving average line again. So I don't like it. I don't like it at all. Now, if the stock goes up and it goes through the recent resistance, then it's got another one up here, which is going to be up here, and then it looks a little different, but that's a big if, right? So no, I don't like it at all. Sorry to say that. DG, Dollar General, yeah, that's one that's been on my list for a little while. Yeah, very nice play. And it just makes a lot of sense from a narrative point of view. It's it's wholesale retail, but it's, or retail rather, it's, it tends to do well in recessions and so on. So holding quite nicely. And as you got that breakout up here with really big volume, what do you then get? You get a second chance, right? This is a second chance. The only problem with the second chance so far is that the volume is non-existent, but it's a lot of the market, the same thing. So we need a little bit more volume oomph for this to kind of go up. Any predictions for Apple? I don't really predict, my friend. I just look at it and I go, does this look good now? Do I want to own it? Do I want to buy it? Do I want to not own it? I at this point would rather not own it because it's below all the moving average lines. It's had a terrible setup, and it's also very heavily impacted by tariffs. So it's kind of a bit of a powder keg. Now, do I own some Apple? Yeah, I own some index funds, so therefore I can't avoid the bloody thing. But I don't own any individual Apple, and I wouldn't really want to. Now, all of this, ring the bell. Oh, yes. Oh, God. Good God. We missed it, didn't we? We missed it, Winston. We missed it. I think we should get one of these big ones. What do you think? I quite like this one, but I think a bigger one is probably appropriate. Winston doesn't seem to mind anymore. So in all seriousness, all of the stuff I'm talking to you about, like when do we buy, when do we sell, what's a good stock, it's much simpler than it looks, but you just need to know the rules. So my goal is to give you those rules on Saturday and really have a super jam-packed information session there. Give you the rules about how we pick great stocks. And then also we'll talk a little bit about when do we buy them and when do we sell them, because the whole thing ties together. And we're actually working on something very, very cool on the back end as well, which I'll tell you a little bit more about on Saturday as well. But yeah, if this crash that we're in doesn't jolt you to like take some actions and go, I'm not happy with this. I'm not comfortable with this. I want to get better at this. Then I'm not sure whatever will. So there are two types of people out there. There are the people in the comments, and thankfully they don't usually show up in our live streams, who go, oh, Trump's doing this and he's ruining the world and everything will go to shit and we'll all die and starve and I'm going to go and kill myself now. Actually, they probably don't say that. They probably blame other people. So that doesn't help, because you're saying the problem is external, it's outside of you and you haven't got control of it. But really what's the reality is the problem is always internal. We are to blame when we lose money. And I've lost a lot of money in the market when I started out. And it was my fault. I didn't know enough. I didn't have education. I didn't have rules. And you could say, oh, but the government should have given you education. Yeah, they should have done. I think they should have done. I think it's a disgrace that the government doesn't. But I can't fix that. And it doesn't really help. All I can do is fix myself. And how do I fix myself? By learning, right? And it's the same thing. I think somehow as adults in Western society, we've been taught not to learn. We don't really like go out and say, I'm going to learn a new sport, right? Guys do, adults don't really do that. It's like a children's thing. But money is the one thing that you probably work 60% of your life for, at least, right? So the majority of your life you spend working for money. So you're going to want to set that money to work. You're going to want to make sure it's protected, and you want to make sure that you know what you're doing, so that you see the opportunities in situations like this and not just the, oh my God, the numbers are so red, right? Which is the natural reaction. So come and join me on Saturday there and learn with us. It'll be fun. FelixPrehn.org/webinar, and we'll do something about that. We'll fix it. Use a string so you don't dampen the sound. Now this one it's not really that noisy, I'm afraid. I will do it one more time, but it's not that noisy. It's just not, which is, I guess, how it was built. It looks like it's about 100 years old, but we can get a big one maybe. I'll look for a nice big old antique one. Why did Trade Vision change colors? We wanted to just go brighter. I've been lobbying for this for a year. I just think everything needs to be brighter. I think it's easier to see. So yeah, everything will be a little bit brighter inside the Trade Vision world. And you're starting to see that, right? The buttons and so. I think it just gets easier to see. There's a lot of stuff in here still that I think, like our dark pools and so on, which we're working on, that is a little hard to read, especially for my eyes. So I want to make everything a bit more easy on the eyes. So that means bright. Gold is surging, absolutely. Holding it wrong, so true about learning, absolutely. Biggest Sticker says, I'm not wasting another Saturday. If that means you're going to take action, brilliant. If you thought that the webinar was a waste of time, that's also okay. I appreciate everybody has a different mindset. Dark pools should be dark. That's a good one. What extension do you use to draw lines? Well, I mean, most of the lines I draw them with obviously the tool that's built in here, but for you guys to illustrate, I don't know what that's called. What's that called? Page marker, is that it? No, what is it called? Yeah, that's it, isn't it? Yeah, it's called Page Marker, I think. It seems to be a Chrome extension. Unscrew the top a bit. Oh, really? Okay, hang on. All right, this is now going to be a bell class. Let's see. Hang on. We need a flat surface. Doesn't seem to make much of a difference. No, I think it was just built that way. No, I think it was built to be audible, not scary to golden retrievers. What's Winston buying? Winston, do you care to share? I think it's past his contractual working hours. Do you think? I think some think he's unionized, and he's sort of like, no, it's 9:30. I'm off. So cowbell, yeah, that's a good idea. Do you trade options? Oh yes, absolutely. Absolutely. One of my pleasures in life is trading options. The VIX is at 3090, which is, it's the lowest it's been today. We'd like to see it in the 20s, really. But at the moment, Donald does his best to keep it at elevated levels. Maybe he likes a high VIX. I don't know. How come your trade vision shows real-time prices and mine doesn't? Because I'm special. I don't know why it isn't rolled out to you, my friend. I know it's rolled out to me. It should be, I would have thought. You think the book dampens it? Okay, so we're going to need some sort of wooden base or something. Let me try it on the table. No, on the table it's still the same. Sorry, guys. I think it's just an old bell. Can you do an options masterclass? Interesting thought. Yeah. In all honesty, Jacob, learning options takes quite a bit longer than learning to invest, because there is quite a bit to it. Much, much simpler to do stocks, but it's a thought. I'll bear it in mind. Is a defense ETF a buy? No base. Well, this is so we're going to go back to this whole bell situation now. No, this is the sort of bell that would be sitting on a countertop in a regional hotel or something in England, and you would bang it. So there would always be a top underneath it. This is not one of these. It's not one of these jobs, It isn't. It is one of those that you're meant to smash across the top. Now, Scott says, Jacob, I'm joining Felix community to learn options. Yeah, we've got some really great options traders. We've got 3 market makers in there who are just tremendous people to learn from. What are options? There we go. Like option is basically an option to buy something at a fixed price in the future, and you sort of pay for that privilege. It's like a right to buy, if you wish, or a right to sell. But yeah, there's a fair bit to that thing. Is that bell from Faulty Towers? Absolutely, yes. I snatched it off him. I hit them over the head with it. It's exactly that sort of bell. It's a Faulty Towers bell, which is why it's a faulty bell from Faulty Towers, which makes a lot of sense. I need some options help. Most options traders do, because it is a little bit of a complex environment. Let's have a quick look at Bloomberg, see what they're saying. China open to talks, which is, I think, good news. Sales at US auto dealers surge, which makes sense. You guys are trying to buy cars before they get more expensive, which I think is why the retail sales figures look pretty good. But even ex-auto, the retail sales figures were very good. Global tech stocks drop as ASML warning adds to Nvidia curbs precisely. Harvard, $9 billion battle with Trump is bad news. Do you guys have an opinion on that? My American friends over there? I don't really go in for the politics very much. I try not to, at least. So it seems that Harvard has hired a bunch of former Democrats, and it seems to irritate Trump, or maybe they're just being too woke or something, and therefore Trump is threatening to remove their tax-free status, which would cost them quite a bit, I imagine. Is that sort of fair? Is that fair? Rare earths, I think that's definitely something looking at. Yes, Antoinette, okay, see you on Saturday. Brilliant. Who else is joining us on Saturday? If you're joining us on Saturday for the live webinar to learn how to become a great investor and really, really benefit from this beautiful crash, and look at it as a beautiful crash, then write Write L in the chat. L for learn, not L for you know what. Harvard's been accused of allowing anti-Semitism. Okay. Who cares about Massachusetts? It's quite pretty. I've been there. I've sort of, you know, yeah, been to Massachusetts, I think 2 or 3 times. Lovely place. But seems to be, yeah, political issue. College has always been more left. At times it's more political than educational. Okay. Okay, lots of L's here. Brent's joining us. Don's serving Dieter and Michael and Adam and David and Warren and Don and Mike and Margaret and Jerinye. I'm sorry about the pronunciation there. Colin and Jacob and Anders. A lot of Jacobs here. You're joining us. Brilliant. Look forward to seeing you guys on Saturday live. I think free speech is the issue. Politics will be the issue. The Constitution is not being followed. Re-Harvard question. Okay, interesting. Yeah, I'm a fan of free speech, even if I don't like the speech. I think you're going to have to accept that. Are there exceptions to it? I think probably asking to kill people. I think we could probably draw the line there, couldn't we? Other than that, it's probably fair game. Although it does obviously irritate you when it's, you know, being targeted at you. I get that, but Russia asking to buy Boeing? What? Really? Yeah. So China is going to cancel some Boeing deals. It's pretty irrelevant. It's something like 3% of the Boeing order book. Okay, Russia wants to buy some jets. Interesting. Yeah, well, that was actually probably the one set of sanctions that were quite effective. They put sanctions on airline parts, and you can't fly a plane unless you keep replacing the parts. The parts have a shelf life. And there are not that many manufacturers of airline parts, given that there is really only Airbus and Boeing, and I suppose soon a Chinese competitor. But yeah, so I can see why that could be an interesting deal. Ignore the naysayers. I tend to, Michelle. I tend to. Howard gets $6 billion from the federal government. Wow! And how much do they charge a year? What is it? $285 or something? $285,000 or something like that. Isn't that what it costs to study that? Crazy stuff. And they have billions in invested money. One of the biggest endowment funds out there. Interesting this to get federal money. Hit the like button. I appreciate you for that. Adriana, brilliant. Yeah, in the UK, yeah, the UK is a proper loony country now, isn't it? I'm actually wondering. I probably shouldn't go there, given how many things I say every day. They are the nutters running the UK are proper nutters now, but it's you elect them, so you kind of have to wonder who the real nutters are, don't we? I know you just did it because you despise the Tories so much. You thought this lot will be better, but electing the head of the Crown Prosecution Service is a really odd move, because become the head of the Crown Prosecution Service, which is sort of the UK's equivalent of Attorney General, just less political, takes a very special individual, and you don't usually want that special individual anywhere near you. Now, Winston meeting the cats. Well, when the cats come, we will certainly be doing that. I think he doesn't quite realize yet what's going on there. I keep telling him, Winston, we're having kittens, right? And he's like, what, really? The other cats know, because they're like, clean her and sleep with her and stuff, they know, but Winston, I think, doesn't quite know yet. Most of us didn't elect them, says Jamie Foxx. Well, I think it's the most that we have to take, that isn't quite right, is it? Most of you did elect them. At least most of you who voted. And if you didn't vote, then it's sort of your fault. But I get it. You probably didn't. I have a friend who's a card-carrying Labour Party member, run for Parliament. We're still good friends. Politics is not really what you should be focusing on. Lunatics running the asylum, precisely. How many kitties are you getting? Well, who knows, really? I think 3 or 4. I took her to the vet about 8 weeks ago, and they said, "Oh, come back to X-ray just before the birth." And I said, "Well, how do I know when the birth is?" And they said, "Well, not quite sure." And I said, "What would be the benefit of the X-ray?" And they said, "You'd know how many kittens you're getting." I said, "Well, it's not quite likely that I know how many kittens I have once they're born." Seems to be very little benefit to that particular vet visit, so I think I'll skip it. But we'll find out. Ireland's a mess, absolutely. Yeah. Ireland's a complete mess. But at least you guys have the balls to possibly stand up for it. All the Irish, I know, I have a lot of Irish guys working with me who, yeah, they don't take any BS. That's for sure. And I like them for it. I think 6 kittens. I hope not. She's herself very young. She's like less than a year old. So I hope it's like less. I hope it's 3 or 4 for her sake. Be a little easier for her. So other than a vet bill, yeah, that's mostly, actually, I don't really like vets. Sorry to say. Most of them are just drug pushers that do pointless things. So no, we tend not to go to them, thankfully. Heat map, please. You sure you want to know? Remember who asked that? Snook asked for the heat map and he's about to ruin your morning. There we go. It's pretty red, with the exception of a bit of energy, bit of consumer non-durables, which means sort of fear buying, really. But mostly big tech's down pretty bigly this morning, especially Nvidia and AMD, because the US is put more restrictions on exports there. Google, Meta, Microsoft, and Apple are going down in sympathy. So the morning is looking a little bit, you know, how it is. I gave you some silver linings if you joined me at the beginning of this chat to not make this completely depressing. And so I'm just reading the chat. I'm getting distracted here. So come and join me live on Saturday. We'll run a proper webinar where I'll teach you how to pick great stocks, particularly in this crash in this market. Now we pick great stocks this week and next week, and also a little bit about like when do we enter, when do we exit. I kind of want to get a little bit more in that on Saturday. So come and join me. It's completely free. We've made 1,000 seats available and the goal is just to set you up to be excited about the crash and the rally that inevitably follows, because there will be a rally. It always happens. So there's a link down below, Felix Prehn Lockstock webinar. Click on that or click on the one in the chat. I think I pinned it to the chat, didn't I? I think I did. It should be there. And I wish you a beautiful day. And I hope to see you here tomorrow, live, pre-market. And all the best from Winston and I, who is seems a little disengaged with the market, doesn't he? I think he's a little fed up of the red numbers. Winston, have you got Nvidia leaps still? I hope not.